Was good with y'all? Was good with y'all people out there, man? We coming back on another Shabbat. Happy Sabbath to anybody watching, even though we post them the day or two after the Sabbath. Still happy Sabbath in the past to the future, y'all, or whatever. But yeah, it's small gathering today. It's three of us. Obviously me, brother Jordan, brother Rodney, and brother Keon. And I'm gonna be taking the reins today. God's chosen son, aka Jada Realist, aka Brother Jordan, and we're gonna be going into the book of Ecclesiastes. We gonna just go ahead and read the whole book, all 12 chapters. Break them down. We probably gonna spend more time reading today since it's not as many people in the panel this week. God bless them and pray that their day is going as well on this day of rest. So, without further ado, we gonna get right into it. Let's get right into it. Okay. So, Ecclesiastes, the book of Vanity, written by King Solomon. And this book is powerful. I remember when I first read this book, when I first read this book, I was kind of, I think this might be one of the first books I read all the way through. It was like the first or second, but I was a bit enamored with all of the wisdom within it. So let's get right into it. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, save the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath the man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? So, in just the first three verses, we get into, already the meat and potatoes of what the context of this book is about. Solomon writes here in verse 3, what profit hath a man of all his labor under the sun, right? So Solomon, King Solomon, he was the wisest king, of all time. When God came to him when he was young, he asked him what he wanted. King Solomon said, I want understanding, I want wisdom, right? So he spent his life he spent his life watching humanity, watching people, watching how the world works. He was a real philosopher, right? So he spent all of his time watching how things operated, and basically the conclusion that he came to is that nothing that we do really matters without God. Everything this in the earthly realm is vain. But I'm gonna continue. Life is an endless cycle. Verse 4. One generation passeth away, another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place whence the rivers come, thither they go again. All things are full of labor, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. So, the heading of these scriptures is life is an endless cycle, and he uses elements that we see on a day-to-day basis, right? The sun coming up, the sun going back down, the sun coming up, the sun going back down, right? How the wind blows, and how the rivers flow into the sea, and then water flows back into the rivers, and then they flow back into the sea, right? Just the endless cycle of things. And this goes to show the other theme of this whole entire book, that there being nothing new under the sun. We gonna continue. Anybody chime in? All right.
Yep, no good.
Okay. Cool. All right. And right here, they're heading for verses 9 through 11. Nothing new under the sun. So chapter 9. Verse 9. The thing that hath been is the thing which shall be, and that which is done is which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It have already of old time which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So, like I said, this is state this these three verses state that everything that we're going through, everything that we see, the sun been coming up and going down since the beginning of the creation of the earth, when the luminaries and God created all of this stuff back in Genesis. The oceans and the seas been moving, constantly flowing in the water cycle since the beginning of when the earth was created and the waters was created. Same with anything, and the same thing goes for the events of our lives, right? People been doing the same thing, coming in, living, doing the same thing. We got a lot of people these days. It's always been prophets. It's always been people spreading God's word. It's always been wicked people. It's always been people who fell into the lust, who fall into the lust of the eyes, the vanity, the pride, lasciviousness. You know, all of that type of stuff. It's always been here. So this is like text. This book is like textbook on how to recognize the fruits of people's spirits and how to use your discernment and grow in wisdom when studying things, because the way I said this before, the way humans operate, we operate by recognizing patterns. God created the world with 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 what's the word, eternal patterns, right? And eternal patterns of things until God deems it to not be so. The sun gonna keep coming up, rising and falling, and that's how we can tell it's a new day, right? Without that, we wouldn't be able to do that. So, verse 12. I, the preacher, was
But
king. Oh, go ahead, go ahead. I think you getting clipped.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying, Rodney.
hello,
Yeah, we hear you.
what chapter you
Um,
at?
we on chapter 1, verse 12.
All right.
All right. Verse 12. The preacher was king over Israel in Jerusalem. So this is how we know. This is how we know. This is Solomon, right? It was a bunch of kings, but this speak on wisdom, vanity, and wisdom and vanity are all things, and we know Solomon was the wisest king. So yeah, this was Solomon writing this. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail have God given unto the sons of man to be exercised wherewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all of it is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting not to and that which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. I commune with my own heart, saying, lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than they that had been before me in Jerusalem. Yeah, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is vexation in spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. So I want to highlight verses 17 and 18. And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this was also vexation of spirit. So King Solomon, like I was saying earlier, in the beginning, King Solomon, God asked him what he wanted for. He said, I want to know, I want to know everything. I want to have wisdom. I want to have knowledge, right? And through his findings, it grieved his heart. Going in the verse 18, for much wisdom is much grief, right? It grieved his heart because when you gain the knowledge, it's no going back. When you know something, it's no unknowing it. You have to deal with what comes with knowing said things, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? They say it's a saying. People say ignorance is bliss. And the thing about the Bible, and the thing about the word and God, when you acknowledge the spirit of God, when you acknowledge the spirit of Christ, that Christ was a real man, he lived. God gave his spirit over to him, the spirit of the spirit of the Son of God unto the Son of David, and he walked the earth and he ministered and he died for our sins. When you come into that knowledge and you start to understand that it's no going back from that. Like, you can't go into the same things of the world. Like, it's grievous. You gotta watch people, deny the faith. You gotta watch people destroy themselves through their own sin. Right? You gotta watch people be unrepentant, mockers and scoffers. And all of this is vexing to your spirit, because we feel, nobody wants to see anybody go to hell. Nobody wants to see anybody punished, persecuted, ridiculed, and all of this type of stuff. And you have to live in the world knowing that people are gonna do those things regardless. So, yeah. Any questions or comments before we go to the second chapter?
Yeah, just even with things like like you were saying, as far as feeling grief off of seeing the things that the people do. Halloween was just last night, yesterday, and we was talking about this a little bit. Even just stuff like seeing Christians celebrate Halloween. You were seeing people get baptized. People were supposed to be quote unquote turning their lives around, and then they still celebrating holidays that's overtly satanic. Like, I wasn't even on social media like that yesterday, just off of the stream. I kept seeing, you know, it's 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 just obvious. I seen a few different women who Halloween costume was just them with devil horns type beat. Like, it it's just so overt. Just people just so overtly, and it's like they don't even really know. Like, it's cute to them, but it's crazy. Like I said, devil horns, the devil tail, talking about it's just wild. It's just wild. People dressing up with blood on their face and all of this little weird stuff that used to be normal back in the day when when we didn't have the knowledge of where these things come from and what they mean. Like, it was all funny games. It's cute. Even my siblings and stuff sending me they trick or treating and all of this type of stuff. These things, the more knowledge you get, like I said, it just weighs heavier on you. And it's just the cross that we gotta carry. And that's why a lot of guys people are usually, more, I just say austere, as more often than not. We don't really be having these kind of spirits where we like super loose and full of happiness. Obviously we feel joy like when the God's people are miserable, but it's just a lot of things that weigh heavier on us. And it comes with the territory. But again, a lot of people rather be ignorant and they rather stay away from knowledge and information and all of that type of stuff. They feel like, we nobody ever really told me this, but I kind of just feel it in a way where I feel like people probably see me as like a buzzkill, or see me as like, just like this dude always upset about something, or always trying to ruin the fun and all of that type of stuff. And it's like, it's just deep. You trying to it's really you really trying to help these people, and save their souls, and they see it as, you just trying to ruin everybody fun, and you won't let people just do what thou wilt and be who they are and all of that type of stuff. So yeah, it's across the carry for sure.
Indeed. Alrighty. Moving on. Chapter 2. The heading is the vanity of pleasure and achievement. It's going to be good. Verse 1, chapter 2. I said in thine heart, go now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore, enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. So before I even go any further, so this is basically King Solomon telling us like his journey on discovering vanity in everything under the sun, right? And how everything under the sun pertains to being vain, right? He said in his heart, he said, I said in my heart, and I go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. So he went, King Solomon, he was king of Israel. So he was going, and he had riches, he had women, he had entertainment, and he went and indulged in these things, not in a wicked sense, but like he still had his wisdom as he was doing it. But we can have pleasures and have fun within life. This is what this proved. We can have fun and pleasures within life. We just have to do it under God's will and under his laws. So this is what he was doing. And he basically said this is all vanity, even with him having the best entertainment, the best, all of the nicest women, all of the riches in his temples and all of this type of stuff. He wasn't fulfilled with those things. It was still vain to him. It only brought him a moment of joy before having to deal with the next internal or external affair, right? Verse 2. I said of laughter, is it mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom. So he was drinking, but he still kept his heart. He still kept his wise heart while doing it, right? And to lay hold on folly till I might see what was till hold on. Sheesh. I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom. Okay. And to lay hold on folly till I might see what was that good for the sons of man, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards. I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruit. I made me pools of water to water wherewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasures of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women. I got me men singers and women singers, in the delights of the Son of Men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me, and whatsoever mine eyes desire, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my portion. And this was my portion of all labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. So, um, we ended up at verse 11. So, like I said, Solomon goes on to explain all of these things that he had, right? All of these endeavors that he, embarked upon. And at the end of it all, it always led him to be like, yeah, this is vain. Now we're gonna ask the question, well, why did he feel like this? We're gonna continue to read, and we gonna get that answer, right? Verse 12. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can a man do that cometh after the king? Even that which has already been done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise eyes The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceive also that one event happeneth to them all. Then I said in my heart, as it happeneth to the fool, so it happeneth unto me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, that is also vanity. So Solomon comes to this conclusion that even being wise, having humanly knowledge, because God can bestow you wisdom, but at the end of the day, we had never had a wisdom of God. We had never know how God like operates and how he exactly thinks. We only gonna have our understanding of it as human beings, right? So Solomon comes to the conclusion, realizing that even the earthly wisdom that he has is vain compared to all of the things in heaven and everything that exists and all of the knowledge that God has. Verse 16. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever, seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten, and how dieth the wise man as the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Yea, I hated all of my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity. Yet to a man that have not labored therein shall he leave it for his portion. This is also vanity and great evil. For what have men of all his labor and of all the vexation of heart, wherein he have labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrow, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for a man than he should eat, drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good his sight, wisdom, and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he giveth travail to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. So, we got a lot to break down. So, for King Solomon, when he was conducting all of these tests and learning all of these things, learning about the vanity of life, right? He asked questions. He was like, well, what am I really even doing all of this for? If at the end of the day I'm gonna die and I'm gonna have to leave my inheritance to somebody, I can't take anything, with me. I'm gonna have to leave my inheritance to somebody who may be less fit than me. Somebody who may be a fool. Who's to say if this person is gonna be wise or be a fool? Now you could imagine if you really care about legacy and building, how that would be a bit grievous unto your heart. Like imagine being on your deathbed and you got to think to yourself, man, my son who I'm about to leave all of this to might be foolish, right? You're not really confident. You can't really say 100% if if the people after you is gonna do the right things, as far as what was given to you in your life, as well as putting all of that work in, just to at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it's gonna be stripped from you when you die. But the light at the end of the tunnel of this, because it sounds so like depressing, right? The light at the end of the tunnel of this, in verse 26, for God giveth to a man that is good his sight and his knowledge and joy. And even the verse before that, where it say, there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat, drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good things in his labor. This also I saw that it was from God, it was from the hand of God. So this just all explained that the joy that we should be seeking, the joy that we should be seeking is in the Lord at all times. Even when you marry of heart, you go out, you drink with somebody, and you marry at heart, you celebrating, or you go and do something to entertain yourself. We supposed to pray for God to bring us joy in those moments, and that's what make them worthwhile. Because without that, it's always gonna be vanity. But without that, it makes all those things feel even more pointless than they already are. So that was the second chapter. Anybody wanna chime in and say what they gotta say?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all right, we're gonna keep reading then. Chapter 3. The heading is Everything in God's Own Time. Chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the sun. A time to be born. A time. Oh, we gonna really have to break this down. A time to be born. A time to die. A time to plant. A time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill. A time to heal. So let's say a time to kill, a time to heal. So for a lot of the people out there, who perception is just like, oh well, God is just all loving and he would never. Nah, God is a God of war as well, and so are his people when people come against his people. So yeah, if somebody's breaking into your house and they're threatening your life, that would be a time this warranted to kill. Not murdering people, but self-defense from your enemies, right? A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, a time to lose. Ooh, that's one right there that we as people gotta start learning and understanding. A time to get and a time to lose, and stop always complaining whenever we opportunity, is taken away from us. Oh, this person got removed from my life. Oh, I lost this job. Oh, oh, I got scammed. I lost some money. A time to get and a time to lose. Meaning it's and we and even if we want to go back to the first chapter where in the first couple verses we learned that it's a cycle to life. These are the cycles to life. Like it's a cycle. For a lot of people, money is a big thing for them. Money is gonna come and go. Money is always gonna be in the equation. You always gonna have some, and it's probably gonna be a time where you're gonna lose it too. You always gonna be gaining and losing money. It's a cycle, so it's really nothing to really worry about. We block our own blessings by complaining and worrying all of the time, not understanding that the world operate in seasons. A time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace. What profit have he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. Verse 11. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. He also hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and do good in his life. And also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it, nor anything taken away from it. God doeth it, that men should fear before him. That which have been is so. That which have been is now, and that which have already been, and God requireth that which is past. So going back to doing everything in our own time, and then we're gonna break down the verses 11 through 15. So a lot of the time we don't understand. People talk about God's timing, God's timing, God's timing. But we don't be truly understanding like God's timing, like in even going to the verse in Proverbs, lean not on your own understanding. A lot of the time, the pride in us and the vanity in us makes us want things in our own timing, right? And with that, our own timing is skewed because it's skewed and it's corrupted, because if it was up to us as humans, we would never want to struggle. We would never want to go through pain. We would never want to go through, being broken down and made diamonds through pressure, right? We would always just want to indulge and feel good at all times. But that's just not how the world operates. That's not how God operates. And that's why in verses 1 through 10 in chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiastes, it gives us a description of all of the things, of all of the seasons you will encounter inevitably. Because this is how God's timing works. And it's no real measurement for when those seasons is gonna end and how long they gonna last. It's just it's just riding it out. It's a verse that say he who endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Right? And if you could find that verse for me and read it, that'd be dope. But yeah, he who endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. Now break it down, verses 11 through 15. This basically explains the excellency in how God made things. Like even in verse 15, we reread that which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been, and God requireth that which is past. So everything that's happened so far up until this point, you know, it was in God's will, right? And we supposed to take comfort in that, like knowing like, okay, we know that God is good. You know, we know that God is just. So everything that's happened so far, oh, you got somebody hit your credit card with a scam. Oh, your car got totaled. You know, all of that is in God's will. Why? Because it happened. It said that reminded me of the why be in the mirror joint. It happened. But yeah, it happened. And that which is to be have already been, and God requireth that which is past. He required that. So we gotta have humility and humbleness and understand like the things that come to pass are meant. It's not a leaf that fall from a tree without the Most High giving His say so. God is in control of all things. This set of scriptures go to prove that God is truly in control of all things. Did you find that verse right?
Yeah,
Read it for me.
I'm gonna try to get the whole context. This Matthew 24 and 11 through 14, I believe. The service going kind of slow. Jiggling the wires. All right, boom. And many prophets shall rise and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved.
Exactly. So, in that time, or in those scriptures, I believe Christ is basically telling people of what's gonna happen in the times after him, right? But even through that, like we know that it's going to be we're going to be in a time frame while we're on this earth, this vain earth, where there's nothing new under the sun, because people was doing these same things in Christ's day as they are doing today. All the lies, false prophets, scribes, Pharisees, all of this type of stuff. We gonna have to endure. And how do we endure? We have to understand the seasons and the times that we are in, and cling close to the Father through the Son in prayer, fasting, supplication, and indulging in the Word. And what's up,
I
Connect?
wanted to add, what's the deal, bro? I wanted to add, as far as like God's timing and in the vanity aspect of it, it's also again a lot of people want things to happen, you know, how they want it to happen, not only just the time, but just even the let's just say the format. We've been talking about this, and like let's just use a woman for example, right? I say a woman lived a life. She did what she did. She was running the streets. Got whatever happened to her in her time in the streets. It happened, and let's say the most high blessed said woman with a man, and the man that she get is not necessarily the man that she may have dreamed of, or a man who is, let's say the man is, in in the word, and he's in polygyny, right? And it's easy for a woman to be like, well, that's not what I want. I grew up on men only having one wife, or men only wanting one woman, and this and that. However, you that's vain, because if the Most High gives you a man, and the scriptures, I don't know if somebody could pull that up, where it talk about in the last days that men will be as rare as gold. It's the Most High is not giving men a valor out, like candy. Even with the scriptures that talk about, like I said, I believe it was Solomon. I mean, David or Moses. He said out of 1,000 men, he only found one, but out of 1,000 women, he have yet not found. And even we can attest. The women that seeing this can attest. You've been out looking for a partner. That is hard out here in the streets. So it's like if you get a man that the Most High is like you gotta hold on to him. You gotta hold on to him, regardless, because that's what God gave you. Because He could have gave you nobody. He could have had you just out here desolate, but you was given something. And if it again, it's easy to get into the vanity and be like, well, I don't want this because this is not what I'm used to. And even for the reverse, let's just use men. The vanity in that. Let's say a man get a woman of God, but the man grew up on he want his woman to be a certain type of way. Like people again, it's vain. Like somebody would be like, oh, I got a preference of light skins or whatever, whatever. And you get a woman of valor, a woman that's willing to ride or die for you and stick by you. And she, let's say she dark skinned, and you just like, well, this ain't really what I want. So, or she ain't really got the body of the woman that I want, that I've been dreaming of. So, I'ma just have to pass on this. This, and when you lay it out like this, it's like you can see the vanity in it, where it's like you prioritizing the wrong stuff. You prioritizing some BS. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, sure, because again, a lot of people want things to happen the way they want it to happen for whatever reason, whether it be indoctrination, or how you grew up, whatever. But a lot of these things that we put stock in are things that really don't matter in hindsight. Because the important part is if that person, if the man is a man of God, if he's down to protect you, love you, take care of you, do everything he needs to do, that's it. Vice versa. If it's the woman that being a helpmate to you, is she down to listen, learn, respect, and trust you? That's it. Everything else, you know, you you dancing with the devil. So yeah, that's my sentiments.
No cap. But that verse is Isaiah 13:12. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Orpher. So yeah, and that's
Yeah.
and that's a fact. So yeah, we gotta humble ourselves and understand. This life stuff is not really for us, bro. It's really to give gratification to God. Like it's for us to worship and do things that He want us to do. Like it's just that simple. And a lot of people will look at it like, well, God is selfish for that, all of this type, bro. He created you. He's God, bro. You don't exist without him.
Hello?
It's no argument in that, bro. Like you don't even exist without him. That's like your parents. You telling your parents they selfish because they got goals and aspirations for you and they trying to push you in the right direction, not forcefully, but like trying to like get you your own free will to respect them and do things that benefit you because they've lived and experienced and understand. And you like, bro, my parents are BSing. Like it's the same way, bro. It's just disrespect. Like, so yeah, that's God. He created you. Like you don't none of this exists without him. But yeah. Um Go
Can you
ahead,
brothers
connect.
hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
I
Yeah.
just want to say, I wanted to touch on what Ro was saying. It's funny because we were watching that stream last night. Um, I
Shout
don't
out
know
to
if you
Inside the
stayed to watch
Nation.
the whole thing, but yeah, Inside the Nation Radio. It's funny. We were talking about the whole thing mentioned with polygyny, or the past of a man or the past of a woman, or what a man would tolerate. And I think the brother name was Rick. He was he was saying that And Bible was saying like you believe in the the blood that's able to wash away all sin. So he was saying basically how the women feel as if some women may feel as if the mindset or they were raised to only deal with a certain thing, the polygyny aspect, and Abaya basically flipped it on us on men in general. Like, okay, what about, I think he called it superhead. Like a woman to build a reputation for, she got a pass with men, they call him the superhead. What if Christ washed away her blood? Would you marry her? You get what I'm saying? Would you
Exactly.
marry a woman that's known for her past? Uh, it could
No
be
cap.
a woman that was dealing in that that filth and debauchery. Are you going to be
Hmm.
able to? And he flipped it on the brother Rick. He was like, "What about her? Is she liable to be a wife now since she repented?" And he was saying that pertaining to he was mentioning and showing how the Bible says you make an oath to a woman, you got to keep that oath. um but yeah, it was a whole ordeal where, yeah, he had a good point. and and I don't want to backtrack too much, but understanding that is not no double standards in this. Say just
Yeah.
like and that's a tricky answer, because I had to look at myself and like, okay, if it's really about doing the will of the Father, if the Father tell you to wife somebody up that you may not like their past or whatever, but maybe they changed as a person for real. What I mean? They action showing it.
That's the
Am
humility
I
I
at
want
that's the humility aspect you gotta
exactly
take,
exactly
because
am I gonna humble
it
myself to do
say
the will of the
the,
Father?
the book say he who is without sin cast the first stone. So just like how you could sit there and reject somebody else for their previous sins, but somebody can do that to you, and you may feel like, dang,
Exactly.
I'm in a position of like I've been sinless for 5-10 years.
hmm
So you
And
gotta
I gotta
have
say, I
humility.
gotta say, yeah. And I just wanted to say, yeah, I gotta say, I agree for sure. And that's not even something I really even put a lot of thought in, but it was kind of something subconsciously where it's like, I for sure agree with that. We kind of talked about it a little bit, yesterday, where it's like, imagine you sit up there and get a woman who, you know that she didn't been in the streets, and let's say she sit up there and she message you or she contact you and she like, man, I really just trying to get closer to God, and I feel like, whoop whoop whoop, she trying to seek counsel from you, and you'd be like, it'd be crazy to sit up there and be like, no, whore, go be gone, go back to the streets, or go find somebody else. I'm like, that'd just be absurd. So, it's and like I was saying, I really feel like we're gonna be in a time like that. When you talk about the 7 women cleaving to one man, because they want to be called by his name to take away their reproach, basically take away their sin. That could be on. That's, well, not even could. That's going to be a case for a lot of brothers. Like, women are gonna. It's gonna be, and it's not to say all of them is gonna be on that, but you're gonna have some people who done had some past and who came into this kind of late in the game or whatever, and they gonna be like, man, I know, I just need to go where the spirit at. Like, I'm feeling this on me heavy that I gotta repent. And then, you sit
I
up there and you have a reputation of, being known for doing the work of the Father. It's like they're gonna gravitate, and you just be, that just be wrong of you to be like, man, no, go on somewhere, go figure it out. Like, you might have to take one of them, take a, let's just say, what, a stripper or something, one of those who had a profession that might be less. less than, or which not necessarily less than, but something that you wouldn't, be in favor of, you might have to take one of them under your wing, and they gonna fall in line because it's gonna be out of survival. It's not necessarily, they just gonna be grateful to have a head rather than coming in. If she really got the right head on her shoulders or really got the right mindset, she not gonna come in on entitlement and be like, well, it's supposed to be me, 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 me. Like if she really come in humility, she like, man, I'd be a second, third, fourth wife, whatever. I just need some head. Well, not some head, pause. But I just need a head.
Wow works. But yeah, nah, you know, like I said,
But
it's the humility aspect for sure, and even the position of a concubine, like it is what it is. It's really just like, and I agree with brother Abaya. It's really just about staying true to your covenant and your word, because God is a man of His word. So he dislikes covenant breakers. I think that's like one of the, when we read that verse a couple weeks ago. That's one of the 7 things He disliked most, is people that break covenants. So it's like, when you say something, you gotta take that serious, especially when you making that covenant to a woman, because women be taking those things serious. That's why it's important to tell the truth. If your vibe is, all right, well, you know um I know I'm pre-genetically disposed to deal with multiple women. You let that be known up front, because then at that point, it's always gonna be something there to be like, okay, well, you hip to this, bruh. You know, you save yourself, sins on your belt from just lying and acting outside of the Most High's will. So yeah, that's important. Connect. We in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 16.
just
All
letting
right.
y'all brothers know, I don't know how long I'm being here. I did want to hop in. I wanted to hop in early, but I was handling something. But
Okay. Cool.
yeah, you said 4.
Chapter 3 verse 16.
Okay, chapter 3, verse 16. I bet. Okay.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna continue. Um. Verse 16. And moreover, I saw under the sun that the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. And I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time, there for every purpose and every work. I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of man, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of man befalleth beasts, even one thing befalleth them, as the one die, so dieth the other. Yeah, they have all one breath, so that one man have no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. All go into one place, all are of the dust, and all return to the dust again. Who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of beast that goeth downward to the earth? Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than a man that should rejoice in his own works, for it is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? So, Solomon in these slew of scriptures get to explaining basically like in God's eyes, and how life works. At the end of the day, we all gonna die, or a massive majority of people are gonna die. Why? Because sin is brought into this earth. So just like how the beasts die, we'll die the same way, right? And it also, and like I said, the glimmer of hope in these scriptures come from towards the end, where it say, a man should just rejoice in his work. Like, despite knowing the facts that everything, we can't take nothing to the grave with us. This life is temporary. Everything in this life is temporary. we have to call on God to find joy in the works and in the pleasures that He's given us in His lifetime to make it worthwhile. So I'm gonna move on to chapter 4. Chapter 4, verse 1. So I return and consider all the oppressions that are done under the sun. Turning my page. And behold, the tears of such were oppressed, and they had no comforter. On the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praise the dead which are already dead more than the living which are yet alive. Yeah, better is he than they better is he than both they which have not yet oh, hold on. This is crazy. This is a tongue twister. Better is he than they both which have not yet been, who have not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. That verse is powerful because is basically describing, saying like it's better for the people, you know, who haven't been subjugated or born into the world to see the madness, wickedness, and evil. Why? Because going back to chapter 1 verse 18, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth in knowledge increaseth in sorrow. So we know stranger to the fact that the world is wicked. It's a lot of wickedness, perverseness, pervertedness within the world. And we come into this world as kids, innocent. We don't really know none of this stuff. As we grow up, we get corrupted by those things. So better is the man, better is the spirit, the person, the man that hasn't even experienced this yet, and or even the person that's done experiencing it through death. Okay,
Yeah.
verse 4. Again, I consider all travail and every work, every right work, that for this is a man for that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. Now, for a lot of us, right? For a lot of people, they in the rat race, and this is massive vanity because what has social media taught us? Social media has taught us that people want what others have. You know, everybody is building up their kingdoms, they doing their work in order to surpass the next man, to say I have more than this person, more than that person. But it's vain, because at the end of the day, somebody is always going to have something that you don't have, right? And that's why in these passages it's tell us to, rejoice, take joy in the pleasures of life, and in the work that you do, because you cannot take pleasure in your works, or the things you achieve, and the pleasure that come from them, when you worrying about the next man. It's envy, it's vanity, it's vain. And it also goes to show, just like we see it now through social media, this how people move. This People been doing this. People been envious of other people. People been working just to get ahead of the next man and say, oh, I own more, I have more than you. But at the end of the day, why is it all vain? Because you can't take it with you when you die. It's a simple concept, really.
Yeah.
The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. Better is a handful with quietness than both hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. So, better it's better for you to have less, and be humble and meek and be appreciative of those things, than to have more and be vexed in your spirit, and to be filled with travail, to be filled with, you know, just straight, anarchy within yourself, trying to, get ahead of somebody, trying to cope, fill a void or anything, right? Verse 7.
I
Then
just wanted to add.
oh, go ahead, bro.
I wanted to, yeah, no, I wanted to add. Like even when you think about it, like you talk about a period of having money and not having money is, or having things and not having it in general. If we look at something as simple as, let's say a car and a house, whatever. Let's say, because that's those are one of the two key things that a lot that most people thrive for when it comes to having independence, having your own transportation and having your own place to stay. Like in the moment of having something like that, those just seem like basic things, right? Like, okay, well, I got a car and a house, cool, whatever. But then you like, well, I got let's say it's not even a house, say it's an apartment. It's like, okay, I got a car and an apartment. Well, now it's like, okay, well, I would like a house, or I would want a better car, or that's where, and you lose sight of the things that you do have, and it becomes just like mundane, or it just becomes like a nothing burger at a point in time where you get desensitized. And even when you think about having your first car or whatever, and in that moment where you like, dang, I really got my own car, I'm driving around, whoa, 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 and you it's a different feeling after you done got into the car, over 1,000 times, and it's just regular routine for you to get in the car and drive around. A lot of times people forget these things are, privileges in a way. And when you don't have those things, now you just kind of like, well, I would like to have those things. It's kind of like it's a constant, like you said, it's a constant. It's always gonna be another level to get to. So it's always gonna be something in your face where it's like, well, I want that now, and then you lose sight of the things that you have that you've already been granted. So yeah.
Indeed.
So it's a big thing. It's a big thing. Like with these things, these desires, they come with spirits. You get what I'm saying? And they can have you lose track of true purpose. Well, and a purpose that's in Christ. And it's a great thing when you have that, and you have that understanding of the desire of salvation and the meaning of life. And you look around the world and you see that it's a rare thing, and that most people are just living to live. Most people are part of this matrix. Most people don't care to tend to the things pertaining to the afterlife. Most people don't care about judgment. Most people are just tapped into this system, thinking that this is real life, thinking that this is the be all, the end all. And it's crazy because as me personally, as I'm living and you know, I'm experiencing life in this society, seeing how it's just becoming more wicked, becoming more immoral, becoming more, I feel the oppression. I feel the things that they're limiting us from. Even to the fact of like living off the land. It's like that should be a common thing amongst people. And just feeling that, feeling what the word says, and just seeing that it's all vanity. Life is not just supposed to be you working to make these evil corporations richer for your whole life. You you work your whole life, and you retire for a few years, and then you die. You have a family to, to keep the rotation going, and then in the meanwhile, while you living life, you ain't sin your whole life. You get what I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah.
the grim reality of the masses. And I've never felt more inclined to break free from it, or to disconnect in any type of way that I can. And the biggest way I say that I do that is, connecting with the Most High, applying His Word in my life, you know, transforming my mind, tending to the things above because those things are what matters. Like it says, our treasure is in heaven. And we trying to make the kingdom. We trying to redeem ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
redeem our souls. Actually, reap the blessings of living like Christ amongst the world of wickedness. Because that's not vanity. Trying to actually receive soul salvation, focusing on things that have true substance. And the purpose and the meaning of life. But yeah, most of what we put on the pedestal and what because we be in this physical realm, it be distraction. And the adversary, he knows that it can throw us off, it can catch us off guard. He can have us set our affections on the things that don't matter. you know Beauty, physical substance, carnality. That's why everything is so that's why everything that's bad has a status quo. Everything that's worthless has a status quo. That's why we live in a world that's filled with greed. We got billionaires and millionaires, but we got a whole bunch of homeless people. You know what I mean? It's not a world of love. It's about get. I gotta get mine. Crabs in the bucket mentality. Like the word says, I want what's his. Or I gotta have this. I gotta have that. It's a it's a crazy mentality, and it's a lot of narcissism. You know what I mean? And the Bible is a mentality that the Bible directly, condemns. And it's that way because the adversary is the God of this world. He's programmed the masses. And most people are stuck in their ways and are not going to adopt the ways of the Bible. They're not going to accept the spirit of Christ, the Son of God. So
Um,
that's why it's a sad reality that only few are chosen. So it's our job that we keep focusing on the things that truly matter. While at the same time trying to elevate in life, but just knowing that whatever we go through, it's the Father's will. Long as we operating in integrity and righteousness, we rocking with the Father. Through the ups and downs and rejoicing in His Spirit, in hopes that we can obtain salvation one day. That's my biggest aspiration. Conquering all of my sin and making it to the kingdom so I can hear well done. You know what I mean? That's what matters to me more than anything. That's been the whole drive of my life, and I recognize I'm blessed to have this mentality. So,
I want
but
to go
yes,
to a scripture real quick. Say, it's James chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. It says, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, and but let it says, but let sorry, ain't playing. Okay, it says, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So, another translation talks about, but let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, lacking nothing. And again, that goes into, you having everything that you're supposed to have, you have it. We're not lacking in anything at any moment. And again, this is peace that come with that, because even as I'm growing in faith, when it comes to losing things, or losing these, losing things, it don't bother me the same as it would other people. Just being transparent, I'm somebody who lost, you know houses, well, not houses, but apartments, place to stay, cars. That came close to, losing people. Not even came close, but lost people. A bunch of times. And as time progressed, people, it just becomes easier and easier, because it's like, okay, this was God's will. and you can't like I can't even muster up the sadness or the same levels of like I used to be a person that felt a lot of anxiety and tense times where it's like, dang, I'm about to lose this person or I'm about to lose this thing or whatever. Now it's just like, well, all right then, is it's a lot of power in it. I'm appreciative and grateful to the Most High for even giving me this mindset because you know it feels superhuman. It's like I can't be knocked off my square because it's all in the will of the Father. And it's like when you got that faith and you trust that, nothing can really get under your skin as far as losing people. And you have like a different level of authority on this plane when you just become unmovable like that. So yeah, all praises.
Yeah, agreed. Um, Intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. That's the definition of greed. A feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possession, qualities, or luck. That's describing envy. Now, for a lot of people, life is just a constant cycle of them sifting through greed and envy, because it's like I said, even just the way our brains work and how dopamine work. Like, our brains, when something pleasurable is happening to us, you know, our dopamine spike, so our mood and excitement spike. So when you buy that new house, buy that new car, you win the lottery, da 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 da, your dopamine spike. But the thing about it is, it's a level to it. So after a while, you're gonna come down, right? You're gonna come down. It's going to start feeling quote unquote normal, and that's where, when that happens, a lot of people take things for granted. That's why we're supposed to be grateful for what God gave us, and find the joys and pleasures through God. You're supposed to ask Him to keep you grateful and keep you content and add joy with the things that you have, because what's gonna happen is, once your dopamine go down, it's an addiction. You gonna get greedy. Once again, you're gonna want to feel that again. Then you're gonna be living your life. You're gonna see somebody that got something even better than you, and you're gonna get envious and jealous. And that what people don't understand is, envy stops you from attaining the stuff that you want to attain, because and it also causes for you to lose the things that you've already attained, because now all that effort that you expended focusing on what somebody else has and how somebody else got into the position, you took away the time and effort that could have been built towards getting yourself in that position. And sometimes God will take from you for that. So, to the viewers, for sure, keep in mind and be aware of the wickedness of envy and greed. It's vain. Let's continue though. Verse 7. Then I returned and saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone, and there is not a second. Yet, yeah, he have neither child nor brother, yet there is no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches, neither saith he, for whom I do the labor and bereave my soul of good. This is also vanity. Yeah, it is a sore travail. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he haveth not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. How can one alone be warm? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. So this is basically explaining the value of camaraderie and having people around. What's the point in garnering all of these riches, all of this clout, all of this fame, if you by yourself? Now it was funny, we talked about women, right, earlier in the panel and whatnot. And a big thing for women these days, I don't need a man. I have money. I'm independent. I have a car. I have all of this stuff. I have clout. I have social media following. What good is all of that if you don't have a husband to share with, if you don't have a son or a daughter to give that inheritance to? When you die, it's pointless. It say that a threefold cord is not quickly broken. If you have a rope and the rope is one strand of rope, it's gonna snap easier
Hey,
than
Buzz,
if you. It's gonna
you
snap
gotta go
easy.
back upstairs.
All right. It's gonna snap easier than if it was three ropes knotted and tied together, right?
Yeah, what you know? I
So
go
the
back
bond
upstairs.
the bonds we have, and just like also if it's two people, if you got some work that needs to be done, let's say you want to move out your house, right? It's gonna be way harder for you to move out by yourself. If you got somebody else there to help you with said thing, the work becomes two times quicker. Also, if one of y'all get exhausted or faint, you got somebody there to help you pick you back up and check up on you. Whereas if you're alone and you have all of these things, it's nobody there to help you. So um
We
that's we
we
that's
talked
that's
about it.
that's where we get into one second. I'm gonna make this last point. That's where we get into selfishness, and that's what greed and envy leads to. You being selfish with your riches. We live in a time frame now where, like Connect was saying, it's people poor in the streets and they talking about throwing them in jail or killing them. The greed and the vanity of it all makes people selfish and makes people only look out for themselves. Go ahead.
Yeah. We talked about something similar. Well, I believe it was last week or the week before. We was talking about Christ, and Christ was, he was a superhuman, on earth, and even he didn't want to do his work by himself. He had his disciples. So it just goes to show anybody that's on that frequency of, they can do it by themselves and they don't need nobody else. You already know you moving in the spirit that's just unchristlike. And Satan, that's one of Satan's weapons. That's clearly one of Satan's weapons, because even if you look at the people who have the riches, who have, fame or whatever, you look at these rappers, whatever, how often do you see any rapper next to somebody they grew up with, or you see them with a group of people that they can say that they came up with, they was in the same neighborhood, whatever, they got genuine friends. Most of the time you see these guys linked up with other people who did the same, who took the same route, and abandon those people of their past and abandon the people that was around them, because a lot of the times those people really can't even get back to those people. That's some of that stuff being their contracts. When it comes to that bread, these people have multi-millions of dollars. If they wanted to, they could change somebody from their past life, or a friend of theirs, just like a snap of a finger. But they literally aren't allowed to give back to their communities and do that type of work, because that's just what it come with. They gotta, once they get that money, they gotta be moved out of they hometown. They gotta be plucked up and basically ostracized and put on the island with other people who was also put on the island. And now y'all, you in competition with these people, because that's what you around. Now you chasing, they got you chasing that. Because if in a way, if they did have you stay, where you grew up at, or whatever, it could be a level, it's gonna be a level of contentment there, because it's like, you quote unquote made it, and you gonna, it's just gonna be a level of contentment there. But If you get put around other people that's on the same level as you, you become less special, and that leads you to, okay, let me do, what's the next ritual I got to do to get to the next level to be above these people that I'm around, and so on and so forth. So that's just something I wanted to add.
Indeed. Verse 13. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that shall take that shall stand up in his stead. There is no end of all the people, even all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit. So here Solomon is basically just explaining, like, it's better to be poor and wise than a older person with wisdom. This a king, right? Somebody that's in position. They live more life, and through they experience, we've all done seen this. Like, people like to think that their age automatically brings them wisdom. It's people that's 50 years old that still don't understand things that you should when you first hit your early 20s, or any other time. Like, it's people that just don't understand the laws and how things work within the world. You see it all the time. People still on the corner in the barber shops talking about the same things all day. Let's say, for example, for our people, you see people all the time talking about, yeah, you know, quote unquote, black people. We need to do something. We need to invest in our own. But nobody is those same people aren't. They don't apply that knowledge. They don't understand what they're really saying, and they're not actually coming together to put forth anything. So that's foolishness. But that same older person that's 50 years old spouting this would get up and irate if somebody younger, half their age, came and said, okay, well, you keep saying this. I hear you say this every day, but what have you done for the community to try? Like, what have you started to put together? And then that person may grow irate and be like, well, you don't know anything. I'm older than you. Don't disrespect your elders. Da 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 da. And in these verses, it talk about, like I said, verse 13, better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king. So it's basically explaining the value of wisdom and being wise over being foolish, and how buying into the vanity, buying into the glitz and glamour can lead you to be foolish in the ways that you move. And ultimately, and I just talked about this, ultimately, it'll end up in you losing your position of king, and that poor and wise child will rise to that position in your steed, right? So, we got, like I said, we got to be careful about when we out here, and how we maneuver, as far as the vain things that's all around us, which is the world in itself. The world was given over to Satan. The definition of vanity is just worldly things. It's just worldly, being worldly. So hence why we cling to God, because the things that are godly and above are not worldly. If you are worldly, you literally are playing Satan ball. So let that sink in.
I wanted to add real quick, as far as that scripture, even with something like a job, like we seeing this happen today, government shutdown, 600,000 people lost their job, for no reason. And I can only imagine these jobs, people, these government jobs, all of these different jobs and stuff, that somebody these people, somebody was in their ear at some point and probably swayed them into doing that. Like, They like, you gotta get you a good job. You like even these government jobs that you gotta go to college, do this, do that, get you a good job, do this. And then, they listen to that just out of, not knowing no better and really thinking that security in the opportunities of their oppressors. And a lot of people right now is strung out just off of that alone. A lot of these jobs is gonna be cooked real soon, because with the AI and everything like that. Even something like I was looking into, the United States Postal Service. They cutting a lot of jobs just because Amazon is pretty much making a lot of the stuff they do obsolete, as far as like package delivery and things like that. So it's really just, and it's just really just goes to show again, people think they got the answers. And you gotta it takes a certain level of wisdom to look at the lay of the land and be like, no, I'm not going to rely on this system. I'm not going to put my stock into this. I'm gonna figure something else out, even if it may take a longer amount of time. I'm gonna just do something differently, because again, a lot of people is now really strung out, and not knowing how they about to pay their next bills, their next wave of bills and stuff, just because of relying on the system.
Facts. I'm gonna read the next two chapters. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this up. I'm gonna do a part two to this, and we read the last six chapters when it's my turn again. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna read the next two chapters, 5 and 6, and then we gonna end up wrapping it up. But let's go. Chapter 5, verse 1. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be ready to hear, than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Right. To not be rash with thy mouth, and to let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he have no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, than thou shouldest vow and pay not. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin, neither say before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice, and destroy the work of thine hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words there are also divers vanities. But fear thou God, if thou seest the oppression of the poor and the violent, perverting the judgment and justice in a province. Marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. So this talk about the hierarchy of God above all, above all people who really think that they're somewhere in life. And it also talk about our vows. It say it's better to not say anything than to make a vow or a covenant you not gonna keep, especially unto the Lord. you know and even in the last verse, if thou seest oppression of the poor and violent, perverting the judgment, injustice in province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. Right. So yeah, we gotta keep our we gotta learn to bridle our tongues when we going and asking for certain substance, right? When we going and saying that we'll do certain things when and when we come into the Almighty, and also understanding that the places people exalted to in the earth are meaningless before God. Verse 9. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. When goods increase, they are increased that eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their own eyes? That's deep. Basically, if you it's that same, it's like the same as that verse, the love for money is the root of all evil. If we not supposed to have love in like straight love, but for vain things, because that breeds idolatry. We start worshiping those things. When you love silver, when you love abundance and increase and all of this type of stuff, like you love that, and you start to put that over God. That's where it's a problem, right? And also saying when goods increase, they are increased to eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving and beholding them with their eyes? So basically, it's like what Rodney was saying, like these people that be in positions, celebrities, politicians, all of these people, billionaires, that have that store up all the riches for their own. Not knowing that when things increase in the land, it's more things that people desire and need. The people that desire those things are also going to increase. And what is the good in hoarding all of the money? What is the good in hoarding all of the jobs, the positions, and all of this type of stuff? It's just it's greed, it's pride, and it's selfishness. And that's what the world breeds. It's nothing new under the sun. The vexation of spirit, the greed and vanity within people causes them to disregard the people that really need on a lower level. Verse 12. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their. Hold on, let me reread that. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb naked, shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hands. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, he shall go, and what profit hath he hath labored for the wind? All his days also he eateth in darkness, and have much sorrow and wrath in his sickness. So this is basically describing the vainness within the riches and whatnot, and how the mentality of like being selfish with it is vanity in itself. Because at the end of the day, like said, we keep reiterating the same point, but it's just so powerful. Like you won't be able to take that with you when you die. So while being envious, jealous, and greedy this whole time, you store up this wickedness and this perverse lust and all of these things in your heart, to where you don't even really enjoy the things that you have that you're going to lose anyway. Verse 18. Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and drink and to enjoy. My fault. Here we go. Hold on, y'all. Rodney, you got any add-ons? I gotta mute real quick. 1 second.
Okay. I was muted. My bad. Where you leave off at? I kind of tapped out. My daggone head just started banging.
My pops said shalom, y'all.
What's the deal?
He ain't listening, man.
Tell him shalom. Okay, I'm ready. We is at verse 18. Behold that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all of his labor, that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Now this go to reiterate, what I just said about verses 9 through 17 about why it's important, and the whole main point that we've been making, to reverence God and all things that you have, because then that's when the vain things are given meaning. Every man also to whom God have given riches and wealth, and have given him power to eat thereof, and take of his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God, for he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart. And like I said, that the whole point is to be able to rejoice in our labor. That's the gift that God give us. It's contentment. It's being able to look at what you have and look at what you work for, and be appreciative of said things. Chapter 6, our last little stretch, 12 more verses. Heading the vanity of riches without use. Chapter 6, verse 1. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desire. Yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. If a man beget 100 children, and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say, that an untimely birth is better than he. For he cometh in with vanity, and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. Moreover, he have not seen the sun, nor anything. This have more rest than the other. Yeah, though he live 1,000 years twice told, yet have he seen no good. Do not all go to one place? All the labor of a man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. For what hath the wise more than the fool? What hath the poor, knowing to walk before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. That which have been is named already, and it is known that it is man, neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. Last two verses. Seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man the better? For who knoweth what is good for man in this life? All the days in his vain life which he spendeth as a shadow. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? So, wrapping up, the main points that I really want to address, like I said, and reiterate, is that we live in a fallen world. We live in a world that's given over to the likes of Satan. And everything here, is used to chastise us, is used to bring us closer to God. And our 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 iniquities come when we get too high strung up on the worldly things that Satan can give you. When we fall in love with those things, because God can give us all things, God can give us all things, if we follow him and do the right things, right? But the point of it all is to not be corrupted by those things, because once you are corrupted by those things, the money, the fame, the clout, the people in your life, once you start putting things above God, you lose that peace. You lose that joy for having those things. You lose that contentment, that appreciation. You get resentful when you lose it. You start to scorn and curse and do all of these things when you lose all of these things, and thus your spirit gets afflicted, with mass tribulations and mass sorrow. So we need to keep our minds on the kingdom above, and really remember what we doing all of this for, and remember that the whole world is vanity. Everything in the world is vanity. So if you put anything over the world in the world over God, um, that's vain. It's just vain, and also to understand that nothing is more important than the Lord. And those my closing sentiments. We gonna I'm gonna let the other brothers, chime in. And when it's my turn again to teach, we're gonna go through the next 7 chapters. I mean the next 6 chapters. Part one. Any closing sentiments from the brothers?
Oh, uh, yeah, I would just want to say, yeah, it's a powerful word, and it's so you finna get something. Yeah, and it's very vital to understand and to have that longing for more than what we see, you know, longing for more than what we can feel, what we can touch, and exalting the life that the Most High has set place for us to live, pertaining to righteous things, to spiritual things. Because as you read, man, and you look through our life and just look, through our own personal experiences, or even when we read in the Bible, we see that life is a course of different tests and trials, and we trying to make it we trying to
Indeed.
make it to real life, and it's
Afterlife is where the
amazing. It's
life
like,
begins.
exactly. And I remember it was a scripture talking about how great the faith is, for those who haven't even seen Christ. You know what I mean? And how be I don't know the exact time frame, but like 1,000 years later, we feel his spirit, his presence, without actually seeing, his I mean, we see his miracles, but not seeing him in the flesh and blood, but actually desiring to, live in our higher purpose. I remember when I first came into this truth, and I didn't have my mind on the Father or getting right. My soul had almost like a emptiness. I desire something more. I feel like there was more to life than, what the world told me and what I've been, what I was experiencing. And lo and behold, that was the calling from the Most High, and I found that. And shoot, it's been a blessing. So that's why I'm always, when I write, that's why I write. And I give praises to the Most High, and I glorify His word. I exalt Him because He is what matters. Getting on right terms with Him.
That's not vanity. And as the word says, we got to set our mind on the things above. And yeah, it's vital. But yeah, it's powerful scripture.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to. I ain't really got much else to add. Um, definitely is an important word though, as far as just again understanding what's important and what's not. Like said, like we gave the examples before, with men and women. It should be about the nation over everything, the kingdom, and spreading God's word should be the main priority for everybody. Everything else, you really just chasing Satan, and he leading you into a trap if you ain't prioritizing the Most High. That job you working is leading you to a trap. That person that you with, if the father not in that union, that's leading you to a trap. It's all just it's all for nothing. And like I said, I feel Solomon because we got
Yeah,
social
hold on,
media
BB. I'm
now,
gonna let you know. You
and
can
we
you
can
can go
just go. A
use it
lot
if
of
you
us
want
can just
to.
go to our
I'm muted.
feeds, see the people
I'm
we
not
grew
using
up
my
with, see
camera.
the people that we knew, and just see that they all are, for the most
We've been
part,
there for
in
2 hours. We
in
almost
in
done.
the rat race. It's headed towards the trap. And we know the scriptures tell us that broad leadeth to damnation, and narrow is the path to salvation. It's rare. It's rare you can get on.
It
As
ain't
well as
never
rare
nothing
for
wrong
me
with
for me to
spending
be able to
six,
get on
4 hours
social
with
media
God.
and see somebody actually talking
Okay,
talking that kingdom talk. Anytime,
go
I say
pee. Go ahead.
98
Go,
to
get up and
ninety
go
nine
pee
percent of
right
the
now.
time is literally just
Because my
frivolous,
camera is not on.
pointless things. And like I said, yesterday was Halloween, so you really get a good landscape view of who's inside of Satan's mouth,
Okay, you ain't ready for to
and
lay down for long.
who's, when he
Endure a little
close it,
bit.
it's just gonna
Come
be
on.
a wrap. All we can do is pray for those people and hope for the best. But like I said, we seeing all of these dang on costumes and all of these different Halloween parties, all of these pointless things, and it's just important for us to just stay in His word, and I ain't gonna say block that stuff out, but like I said, just keep those people in prayer and hope they turn around and come to their senses. So yeah, that's pretty much my closer. Everybody just stay encouraged and keep your eyes on the kingdom.
With that being said, it's been us at the gathering. Um, I believe it's your turn next week, right? Right.
Yeah, I might just I might just read where I've been reading at solo. I've been in the book of Amos, so I might just pick up from there. We could just read that and talk about it.
Go ahead. Okay. Okay. So yeah, next week, Rodney. Any words from you, Keon, before we sign out?
I'm gonna be here in the message. I'm gonna Google the scriptures myself. Process everything,
Okay.
make sure I internalize these things.
That's all we can do.
Shit.
Yeah. With that being said, it's been us over at the gathering. We'll be back next week once again. We pray that all of y'all, heard this word, got some spiritual edification. If you got any
Wait,
questions,
I
you
do
can leave.
got one thing.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
Wait, my fault. I want to go over James after, so not next week, but the week after that. I want to go over James.
Okay. All right, we got a little schedule then.
Yeah, yeah. If that's clear, because nobody already got that slot.
Okay, yeah. All right, bet. So the week after Rodney, go over James. Alrighty. Yeah, to the people watching, peace and blessings to y'all. Prayers go out to all of y'all that y'all got edification and understanding through the stream, and whatnot. We'll be right back here next Saturday. For any people with any questions or comments or concerns, leave them in the comments. Share this with somebody and subscribe to the channel. Help us push this word. With all of that being said, we up out of here. Happy Sabbath. Shalom.
Peace.